What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Triple H podcast. Happy Hour Hoops, and the Denver Nuggets are NBA champions. The first one in franchise history. Long overdue for these folks. Jokic solidifies his legacy even more. He gets the ring. Initial thoughts, guys. I mean, we have the OG crew for Happy Hour Hoops. The NBA season's over, so I'm slightly depressed, but at least we got to talk about the champions. What did you guys think about last night?
Congratulations to Meerkat. He finally got one. First and foremost, congratulations to Meerkat, and congratulations to Denver Nuggets fans. I feel like obviously you're gonna have people that jump on the bandwagon in the playoffs, but if you're a Denver Nuggets fan before this, you were a Denver Nuggets fan, a very loyal fan base, as you could tell during the home games, a very proud fan base, and a very rowdy fan base in the games too. This is a first ever championship for them. It's awesome. It's an awesome feeling. You could tell with how the players reacted, how the fans reacted, the celebrating. Congratulations to the Nuggets, the fan base, everyone. And I got to say, after, looking back at it, congratulations to the Denver Nuggets, because probably over the course of the year and from the first game, they were probably the best team in the NBA, and they showed it. It didn't matter who was standing in their way. Jokic proved he's the best player on the planet right now. I don't think anyone can dispute that. Jamal Murray, a full recovery from his injuries in the past since the bubble, looks like a superstar point guard again. And just overall, the Nuggets as a team, man, this might not be just one championship for this team. This is a fantastic team, a fantastic couple of stars. Good for the Nuggets, man. Good for the fans. And kind of put their name on the map, where a lot of people don't watch a lot of Nuggets games. They play a little later sometimes. They're not on as many nationally televised games. It's nice for a smaller market team to really put it out there, because the Nuggets were a damn good basketball team this year and an incredibly impressive playoff run, topped off with a gentleman's sweep, where the Heat gave it all they could, and this Nuggets team, it did not matter. They were just too good, man. They were just too good.
Yeah, so starting with last night, you kind of just reminded me when you said it, how good the Nuggets just looked last night, and how they were able to. What impressed me the most is throughout the second quarter, the Heat held around an 8-9 point lead for most of the second quarter there, and it never felt like the Nuggets were out of it.
Never.
It just felt like the whole game, even when I think the Heat took a 1 point lead when Butler hit all those shots in a row in the fourth quarter too, and with like 2.5 minutes left, and I still never flinched. I was like, oh, the Nuggets are still pulling this out.
Yeah.
And that's how it felt all series, honestly.
And that, I think that really goes to their defense too, is where the Nuggets, they're always going to hit their shots. Their offense is always fantastic. Our biggest concern going into the playoffs was their defense, and that was the least of the concerns for the playoffs. That defense, every game, I mean, the adjustments, I say it all the time, the adjustments they made at every single game at halftime, it felt like just Michael Malone getting them ready. The way they played as a team, I mean, it was great basketball to watch. And that was, I think, the most impressive thing. Yeah, you have this superstar, generational type talent in Nikola Jokic, but they played as a team, man. You would have games where Bruce Brown went off. You would have games where Aaron Gordon had some good games. Jamal Murray averaged about 30 a game before the finals, and then he averaged 21 and 10. I mean, you had that. You had Michael Porter Jr., who was ice cold shooting, but it didn't matter in game 5. 13 rebounds, started attacking the boards. I mean, Christian Brown, who might be the key to everything because he played the same role he did at Kansas the previous year in the college basketball run, did the same thing for the Nuggets. It was just kind of the perfect way to form a team, and it's very rare you see a team with a superstar like that, like Nikola Jokic, where they just play team basketball, and it did not matter if you're trailing, did not matter if you're 20, did not matter if you're shooting 60% or you're shooting 30%. They just kept playing their team basketball, and you could never put this team away. And that was the thing, Duddy. Even when the Heat were up 10-12 in the second quarter, it's like Nuggets are just going to – they'll find a run. They'll go on a run. And it's always in the third quarter. I would love to know the plus-minus of the Nuggets just every game in the playoffs third quarter, because it had to be something just ridiculous.
Insane, man. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with the third. I mean, Malone, like, he really showed like he needs to be top 2, maybe not 2 considered coach after that, because everything you're saying was what I wanted to hit on about him, because those third quarters and whatever adjustments, especially defensively, were incredible all playoffs long. They were, and especially last night too, really like Miami couldn't do anything, couldn't get a clean look on anything. Gordon, I mean, Jimmy at the end, that effort was amazing. And that's like that dude. I want to talk about Jimmy a little bit more later on, because, and I know we're going to get to it, but that effort at the end was like, it was a last gasp, and it almost got there. Like it really almost got there. But at that last shot, that last 3 he takes, it was the epitome of the series for you, because it was Aaron Gordon jumping straight up and just getting in his way. And Aaron Gordon was incredible. And that was just one of those defensive performances that all series, I think I hope isn't forgotten about, or I hope gets talked about enough, because the work he did on Jimmy all series long, just making him work, really hampered just the flow of what the Heat were able to do. And Bam was amazing. Bam played out of his fucking mind. Like Bam looked like one of the top like 15 players in the world in this series. Like that's the thing. We've seen those flashes from Bam throughout his career. And that's why you get so excited about him when you think about his potential. You're like, oh my God, like if he could shoot like that and consistently play like that, it would be a different game. And he really showed out. It kind of improved my thinking on them, but just, it was too much. And like you said, Steve, the resolve from the Nuggets all playoffs long. We talked about it previewing this series and talked about how we thought that the Heat would battle back. And even no matter what, if these teams got down to it, in a game 6 elimination, we thought that they'd both kind of be able to battle out of it because of that resolve. And that's both these teams. I think the way Miami fought last night showed theirs, but the way the Nuggets, just a great team. I mean, in the Los Angeles series and in this Miami series, there are moments in all these games that they're in the history books. It's going to go down as a 5-game and a 4-game and look dominant. Those games against in LA and some of these games in this Miami series were really rocky. They were in deep waters in these games, and every time they found a way to pull themselves out of it. Like some of those Laker games, that sweep, one of the closest sweeps we talked about. Like great basketball being played. It's not, but people aren't going to talk. They're just going to talk about it being swept, and that. But I don't want to talk about it to discount the Nuggets. I think it makes it more impressive that they never slipped up. They were always on point. Right. They were always ready, and they were just and Jokic specifically, just too damn good for anybody to do anything anyways about.
Yeah, actually, to your last point there, Jake, I saw someone breaking this down earlier, because someone tried, and the person in the video breaking down the tweet alluded to this, but the person who tweeted it was obviously just going for engagement. But they were like, this was Denver's path to the NBA Finals thoughts, and it was like, T-Wolves, 8 seed, Lakers, whatever. There was no high seeds, basically, is what they were getting at. And they were trying to say they had an easy path. And, they beat an 8 seed in the finals. Well, it's like, you take out KD, you sweep LeBron, you handle the T-Wolves in 5, and then the Miami Heat, who just went through and beat every good team in the Eastern Conference, you beat them in 5, too. It's like, if anything, it's more of a testament to the Denver Nuggets, because that LeBron team that they swept took out the champs from last year and Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors. It's like, the day after, we're already trying to discredit this run by the Denver Nuggets because they did it in such amazing fashion. I don't even think that argument works this time around.
I think everyone's going to try to do that, right? It's such a lazy argument. And I think I said this last show too, Dunny, right? You got to throw out seeds once you get to the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
The seeds only say, okay, this is what they did in the regular season leading up to the playoffs. What do we say all the time in sports? You just got to get in. Yep. All you got to do is just get into the playoffs.
Especially this year. We talked all year. It's a wide open
league.
With
this league too, man. The NBA is so much different in the case that it's just so competitive. Every team has such good talent on it, especially every team that's right in that playoff atmosphere. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
And that's the thing, because I saw it too, and it pissed me off, Dunny. People are like, oh, they beat an 8 seed in 5 games in the finals. Such a weak thing after walking through the West. It's like, first off, they walked through LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Like, what are we doing here? Everyone, who was the favorite to come out of the West when the playoffs were announced? The Phoenix Suns, that the Nuggets took care of easily, despite how well Devin Booker played, despite having Kevin Durant and Devin Booker trying to defend them the whole game. Then you have the Lakers and LeBron James and Anthony Davis. LeBron James, doesn't matter. I'm not going to get in this debate. Number 1 or 2 all time. Does not matter what you have in 1 or 2. It's LeBron James. You swept him. That's pretty damn good. I don't care if it's at the end of his career. He was still putting up great numbers. The Lakers were the hottest team in the second half of the NBA season in the West, maybe in the NBA. And then you beat the Miami Heat in 5, who, they were an 8 seed coming into the playoffs. The Miami Heat took out the top 2 teams in the East. They took the Bucks out in 5, and then they took the Celtics in a 7-game war where they were almost going to get, reverse swept when they were up 3-0 on the Celtics, who had looked great before that series, and then they beat them in a game 7 on the road. This was not just an 8 seed. And that's what drives me nuts when people just do these lazy arguments of, look at the seeds they went through, look at the records they went through. That's just in the regular season. Everything changes come playoffs, and the Nuggets changed too. They were not the team they were in the regular season. Their defense was night and day from the regular season to the playoffs, and it's just the style they play. Rosters get a little shortened with who's in the rotation. Everything changes, and the Denver Nuggets had probably one of the best, I would say, 7, 8. I would go 8, maybe 9 guys in the rotation in the playoffs, where it did not matter the opponent. It did not matter the type of matchup they had. They adjusted. They were the best adjusting team in the playoffs. They were by far the best offensive team in the playoffs. And say what you want about the Nuggets, they were the 1 seed in the regular season still. It's not like they were slacking in the regular season. They were the 1 seed, and in the playoffs where you play better competition, because you're playing a lot of non-playoff teams. You're having a lot of games where guys are sitting out in the regular season. The Nuggets had a better differential in the playoff games than they did in the regular season. This was a team that had a very good playoffs, and people are trying to discredit them because they played too well. Because LeBron, it only took them 4 games to beat LeBron. I'll tell you what, if it was a 7-game series, they wouldn't say that as much. They'd be like, it's a war against LeBron. LeBron almost got him. No, the Lakers weren't great. They beat LeBron in 4 games. That's not what I heard before that series. That's not what I've been hearing about this team since the All-Star break. You want to talk about the Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, when people are like, the Suns just weren't great. They didn't have a deep roster. They were the favorites to come out of the West before the playoffs started. And then the Miami Heat. Now people are like, now they want to say it's an 8 seed. They weren't that good. They didn't have the talent. You didn't say that against the Milwaukee series. You didn't say that when they played Boston. It's just such lazy arguing, and I'm sorry for ranting, but it drives me nuts because you can't discredit it, because Denver looked so dominant the entire playoffs. Didn't matter who was coming up against them.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. And my only gripe with the finals, and I said it after game 2, and for whatever, I enjoyed it. I watched every game. I had fun watching the games, and I'm happy for Denver. All that being said, I said this after game 2, for whatever reason, it didn't feel like a traditional NBA finals. We said, the NBA as a whole, the broadcast, they didn't do a very good job selling it, it seems like this year. But then I just saw it was the most watched finals in 5 years. So obviously, something was there. Yep. I just, for some reason, can't get it past me that it just did not feel like a traditional NBA finals. And I was trying so hard, because I was loving the award ceremony. And then Jokic gets on the microphone, and the dude just still doesn't care. It's like, bro, he just
I love it.
I do too. And I know he obviously does, but it's just, I saw a video today of the Kevin Garnett Anything's Possible. And then it just cuts right to Jokic. He's like, no, it feels nice. It feels nice. Yeah, it was good. We got the job done. And it's like, and that was it.
It was just another
that's
game.
all you had to say.
But I think you kind of love Jokic like that because it's like a star we haven't really seen in a while, right? I don't know if you guys, so I'm sure everyone's seen it by now, the press conference when they're like, when's the parade? It's like it's Thursday.
Yeah.
And Jokic's his hands in his face. And he's like, I got to get home. He's like, I got horses racing on Sunday. He's like, I got to get home. I got to see my family. You have that. you have the situation where, and I thought this was so cool. I don't know if a lot of people really took notice of the second half of this. I know the first half, when they won the finals, all the Nuggets players were celebrating. Jokic is going one by one to every Heat player, shaking their hand, congratulating. And then on the podium, because no one really talked about this, on the podium, you have all the Nuggets players front and center holding the trophies, looking to talk. Jokic is just in the back corner talking to his wife, holding his kid. It wasn't until after they brought him up for the MVP to talk about, because he won the MVP, and then he goes back there in that corner just talking, just hanging out with his family, his loved ones who were there. And then when they're taking the picture, someone had to go grab Jokic. They're like, Jokic, you got to get in this picture. Every other championship team pitcher, the superstar, the man who put the team on his back, sitting right in front, holding both trophies with everyone around him. The Nuggets, Jokic is in the back left-hand corner with his kid on his shoulders, just kind of be like, And I love that because it's a team game for him. And for Jokic, it's like, there's other things that are bigger than basketball to me. And I kind of love that for Jokic because you don't see that in superstars right now. And people are like, oh, he's boring. He's not fun. He's a fun guy. He just,
he's so fun.
Just thinks his own way.
He threw Jamal Murray in a pool after the game.
That was hilarious. That was so funny.
Like, he cares about that. He doesn't care about all the other stuff. He doesn't care about the glitz, the glamour, the fame. Jokic is just out there to ball and then go ride horses on Sunday. That's all.
Yeah, he's truly a one of one, and me searching for it to feel more like an NBA Finals matchup had nothing to do with, the Nuggets not acting like they wanted it or Jokic not being a real superstar or a true NBA championship. It's none of that. It just, for whatever reason, it didn't feel like the NBA Finals. And it was so funny because I was like, okay, now it's starting to during the ceremony. And Jokic just still little to no emotion and just didn't help my argument at all. But like I said, most watched finals in the last 5 years. Yeah. We had some excellent games last night. I mean, we can get right into it. I know we talked about it a little bit before we got on, but it was just such a weird balance of the refs letting everything go for a little bit. And then at some parts of the game, it was like, what is even going on here? But still entertaining game, I thought. It did at times have that classic NBA Finals game feel when the third quarter ended and it was 70-70 or 72-72.
Loved it.
So it's like, you get that aspect of it, and it's great. But at the same time, I know all three of us did not like some of the stretches by the Stripes last night.
Well, I was on the foul counter early because I was like, I was talking to my friends. I was like, how long? What's the over under on Jokic getting 2 fouls? And we set it at 6.5. So he did hit the over. It was like 9.5 minutes at 2 fouls for Jokic. They had 2 on Murray quick. There were 2 on Gordon quick. 2 on Porter.
3 quick once he came back in.
They literally, all their starters basically had 2 fouls by the end of the first half. And that's the telltale sign of like, okay, we're trying to set them up for that. And then just that, the one at the end is, if the Heat win that game, is one of the most blatant, like,
because it was
like screw job calls. Yeah. They challenged it, went to commercial break to let Adam call fucking Mark Davis and be like, you better call that a foul, bro. There's no way we're not getting these shots up. How do you, like, it's so wild to me because you get the best thing about Van Gundy and Jackson is they just give you their gut reaction immediately. Yeah. They just don't care. Like, that's their worth. Like, they're kind of annoying, but they will just react. And even if it doesn't go with like what you would think they would say, and right away they both are not even considering it. They're like, oh, that needs to be reversed. Like, that's not a foul, whatever. And then just quiet after, like, that's a bad call. And that's how you know. That's when you really know. When they're reserved about it, they're just like, that's a bad call. That's when you know they really want to lay into this call. It was horrible, like absolutely terrible. And it should go. There better be a 2-minute report. I need to see some damn 2-minute report for that and get that back or something. And it
just for
I'm joking. That doesn't matter. But like I want to see something. Like Mark Davis, just he's almost as bad as Scott. He really is. It is the principle, and it was a disgrace. But we escaped. We did escape.
And it's so funny because we had phantom calls like that, and then there was plays under the basket where Jokic and Bam were literally like elbowing each other in the side and like full on like full arm extension, pushing each other under the basket, and nothing was getting called, which I loved. Like, let him go.
Van Gundy said that too. They called Jokic on like a touch foul, and he's like, "Well, the foul before he like bowled him over and did that. Those were fouls." It's like, what is going on here? Go ahead.
Yeah,
it's the thing. Just be consistent, right? Yeah. I say this all the time. I said to you guys last night. I like when the playoffs are a little more physical. If you see in the NFL, the refs kind of swallow the whistles a little bit come playoffs. They let them play. They let a little more contact come. In hockey, I mean, I don't have to explain playoff hockey being more physical than the regular season. Just the NBA just sometimes seems to go the other way because they're like, we don't want these guys to beat up on each other. And then they start to, and then they call everything. I just wish it'd be more consistent. I think everyone would be fine with it if it was more consistent, where it's like, we're just going to let these guys play a little more physical in the playoffs, because I think we, the fans, want to see that. We don't want this to turn into a free throw shooting contest unless you're a Philadelphia 76ers fan. But besides that, I mean, you want to see them be physical. You want to see them beat each other up. And the poor NBA, man, the NBA just is so inconsistent because, like you said, Donnie, 4 or 5 minutes we're watching, we're like, wow, these teams are going at it. They're basically throwing haymakers down low. And then the next thing, you get a guy who gets brushed on the arm and it's 2 shots. It's like, just be consistent with it. The NBA, that's the one big thing. I don't like complaining about refs. I never like saying refs decided a game or refs are trying to have a team win.
For sure.
However, I get frustrated when it's inconsistent, and that's the biggest thing for me. And I'm not saying inconsistent where they're favoring one team over the other. I'm saying inconsistent where it's like for one half of the game you're watching and you're like, all right, this is how the game's going to be called. And then it's like 20 minutes later, you're like, wait a second, why is that getting called? That wasn't being called 15 minutes ago. That's when I get frustrated. But I mean, it wasn't I don't think it was a bad overall, like, finals for the refs. I don't think it was that bad. I really don't think there were a few games that even allowed the refs to really get involved or do anything. And the way these teams play too, I don't think you're going to see a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of threes. But it was a little frustrating at the end, like in parts of this game where it's like, all right, like, you haven't called that at all. And now you're calling everything. And also, too, for Jimmy Butler, who really came alive at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, what are you doing when you're down low in the paint there? They have just called everything on you, benefiting you at the end of this game. Go up with it. You got 2 nuggets. Go up with it. Draw contact. You're getting 2 shots. Instead, he passes it out. KCP, who has been unbelievable for the I'm going into him more later. Unbelievable on the
steal and the free throws, man. That was
that steal right there. Biggest steal of his life, probably sealed the game. But Jimmy Butler, what are you doing passing that? You're in the paint. Just go up. You're going to get 2 free throws. The way that it was called in the final 3 minutes, you just got to throw your elbow into him. You're getting 2 free throws.
Yeah, man. It was interesting. What were you going to say, Jake?
Just Jimmy in general. Jimmy, his ankle I guarantee that ankle has been screwed up, and he would never use that as an excuse. But there was no burst for any game this series. He wasn't blowing by anybody, and like, Denver played great defense. Don't get me wrong, but like, there was a scenario last night. There were 2 different times, and this is like why that last gasp effort was so incredible to me, because there was one time in the first half where I remember him trying to take Murray, and he didn't take Murray. And I was like, damn, like, when he was just looking at his worst too, like, he was terrible to start. Maybe it wasn't Murray, but I know it was a smaller guy. But then later on, when he takes Murray later in the game, and he bullies into him and gets the shot he wants in the lane and everything, it's like he was being very selective and was dominant when he could be. But I think that ankle, and probably just general fatigue from doing insane things for 3 series, really, like, I mean, just being the absolute driver of their offense, I think he just ran out of gas and just couldn't get it done as much. And when you're going against the firepower that they're going against, like, you need every little bit to get it done.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anything less of him, but it is a huge, like, the last 2 years, man, he misses that 3, and then this series here, like, those are 2 huge. You don't know if he's gonna make it back. So it's kind of sad, like, that you miss these opportunities. On the other hand, Denver obviously very happy they win their first title ever and everything. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like, I'm sure he's thinking about those 2 years. He's gonna look back and be like, damn, what if? Because it's a huge fork in the road for NBA history for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think any less of Jimmy as a player, but when we get to breaking down the Heat and their future, I have some thoughts on it. I do just want to shower the Nuggets a little bit more, dive into some of the individual storylines and just the some of the other cool shit that happened last night. But I think it was just awesome. And Adam Silver brought this up when he was giving Jokic the Finals MVP. But the first center to win the trophy since they've named it that, obviously it's only been 2 years now. First player to get it since Bill Russell has passed. And Jokic gets the Finals MVP trophy named after Bill Russell as a center. It was just a really cool moment. As much as non-excited as Jokic seemed, it was pretty cool to see. And just I think we were talking about it before we came on, but just the fact that I think you forget that Jokic is a center, and we talk about this position, how it's changed so much over the years, and there's no traditional centers anymore. There's no back to the basket players anymore. And not only is he all of that, but he's also a top 3, top 4 playmaker in this league.
He's also Magic Johnson.
Yeah. It's just like he's such an anomaly. Like you can write, notebook worth of things about Jokic, and it's still not enough to describe how good he is at basketball. It's just incredible. Specifically, I don't know why, but I thought that the Bill Russell Finals MVP trophy moment with Jokic and him looking at it and him telling his daughter to stare at it was really cool. That's awesome. Probably my favorite part of the ceremony.
Yeah, I also think too, and I know we'll probably talk about this guy a little more. We talk about, it didn't look like Jokic cared. You know who did look like he cared? Jamal Murray, man.
Oh, it was awesome.
What a win for Jamal Murray. Coming back from the injury. Everyone like, he can't do it outside of the bubble. He gets hurt. Then he gets hurt again. He played like a superstar point guard from the series against Minnesota to the finals against Miami from start to finish. He didn't shoot as red hot in the finals as he did in the first 3 series, but it didn't matter. He averaged 21 points, 10 assists. He was incredible, electric. And I don't remember what part it was of the ceremony, but they just kind of panned the camera over to Jamal Murray, who was just breaking down. He really didn't have any words. And that's, I think, why I love sports. I think that's why so many people love sports. It's so emotional, too. And you don't realize how emotional it is until you get a win or until you achieve a goal like that. And for Jamal Murray, that's just been eating him alive since the bubble and then the injuries, never knowing if he'd even get back to the player he was there, to just hear everyone just doubting him, saying he's not a superstar, that the Nuggets, like Jokic, needs help, that Murray isn't enough. And then to see the playoffs that Murray had. Jokic and Murray became the first teammates in NBA history to average 25, 5 and 5 and win a championship. That in itself is insane. And we talk about Jokic, who was unbelievable, best player on planet Earth, who was just box scores. The numbers he was putting up seemed like it was a video game. Jamal Murray was doing that too. He had a couple triple doubles of his own. He had some unbelievable games. He had games where he was the one who was backpacking the Nuggets at the end. And to see the reaction to Jamal Murray, and for him to know that, like, we did it with this group. Not much, a couple of the role players changed, but not much changed from the core of the group that the Nuggets started with. Just incredible. So happy for Jamal Murray, because this is a guy too that is such a good player, but never really got the credit that all these other guards got. And for him to, be on top and, show to the world how good of a basketball player he is. And you could just tell he couldn't control his emotions. He didn't know how to react. Jokic was one thing where he's just calm, cool, and collected, just shaking the Heat's hand. Jamal Murray couldn't even stand up, man, because he was so overwhelmed. Yeah. And that's really why I love sports, because of just the emotions that you don't really realize how emotional it is until something like this happens. And you just clearly saw it with Jamal Murray. And good for him, too, because everyone's going to give Jokic his flowers. But Jamal Murray needs to get his flowers too, because he was sensational these playoffs.
Yeah, and I put it here in the doc on purpose because I just saw this right before we hopped on. December 20th, 2021, Jamal Murray tweeted, "The work now will show later." And it's just, it's a little cliche at the time if you're looking at it in 2021, but that's what makes it so special. Here we are in 2023. He's all the way back in the full swing of things. He has his legs back under him, and this is what he's capable of. This is, what he showed us in the bubble, and then what got taken away from us for 2 years. Yeah. And that was long enough for people to start doubting him. One of the more impressive, you hit the nail on the head with everything you said about him, Steve. One of the coolest things I thought, and I was thinking this the whole time watching the series, is like, how much praise and credit did we give to guys like Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, and Max Strus throughout the playoffs to help get the Heat to this point. And Jamal Murray busted their ass the whole series. I mean, there was no one on the Miami Heat that could check Jamal Murray in this series, much like Jokic, but that was kind of an obvious. Then you have a guy that can play at the top of the key to down in the post. Like there was games in possessions where he was posting up guys like Duncan Robinson and Gabe Vincent.
Yeah,
he was just shooting over them. Like the way in which he did it. Yeah,
it's lethal.
The amount of off-balance shots this guy made in the playoffs was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. Him breaking down did make it feel a little bit more like the NBA Finals, opposed to looking at Jokic just going like this.
It was a little. It hit a little different. It did hit a little different. I'm with honestly, for me now in my life, in my old age, anytime a team wins a championship, I always get a little emotional just to see like all the people, like even if it's people I can't stand, like just knowing the work that these people have to put in. Even a story like Murray, especially, but anybody that's like Ish Smith, like 13 teams in 13 years, and now he's an NBA champion. Like things like that are just amazing. You get to see, and this like the videos got all those people, you see them on the court, like just the scene, just in general, the energy was awesome in Denver. It looked like it was a fun celebration. But Murray, how high is Murray's 2K rating next year? Where is he on the list of guards in the league? Because he's going to get a nice little finals boost. And he honestly, and just the whole year. And he's not just saying that like any which way, he deserves it. And he deserves to be in this conversation. But where does he actually end up now? Like we're talking about, this is the tier I think that he's probably hanging around in, where people will talk about. It's probably like that end of third team tier right now with a Mitchell, with an SGA. Like I don't think he's, unless you want to talk Curry, you want to talk Trey. Yeah, you want to talk.
I think Jamal Murray is better than Trey Young.
I think he's better than Trey.
I do too.
I think SGA and Mitchell are the next. 2K rating, yes.
Oh, okay,
I'm just saying,
yes.
2K rating is a separate thing, but generally, just like where is his place among those guys now? Because I feel like he was definitely, like, everybody thought highly of him, but he was behind all these people going in.
So
tier two point guard, right?
Yeah.
So with SGA, would you say that's fair? Him and SGA are the same?
Better than SGA?
Not
a better scorer.
Both though. I'm very scared of Team Canada.
They're the same tier. I think it's fair to put them in the same tier.
Terrifying. They got SGA and Murray on the floor at the same time, bro. And and you got Wiggins and Barrett on the wing for you. Whew. They're gonna be fun. But anyway.
I think the only point guards I can definitively say are better than him right now are Steph, Luka,
Dame.
That might be the end of the list.
Dame. I put
Dame definitely, yes.
Right.
I'm not especially after last season, I'm not here to put Kyrie over Jamal Murray at this moment. Definitely not.
Well, not Kyrie,
I feel like basketball skill wise, it's
like
I know
Booker
with all the off court thing aside, if you told me I get 82 games of Kyrie, I'd still
skill wise, sure.
What about Booker and Mitchell though? Like not point guards, like just guards. Like that's what I'm thinking.
I'd
have those guys over him.
Mitchell, I feel like is close.
I'd have Mitchell over him still. I just think some of the things he can do in volume situations are more impressive than what Jamal.
He's better getting to the rim than Jamal is.
We also haven't seen Jamal without Jokic too, though. So like,
true.
That's true. That's what I want to think.
If you put Jamal Murray in a Cleveland situation,
pick and roll is deadly, dude. He gets about 15 points from the Jokic pick, hand the ball back, or the screen, and one of them's roll. I mean, but you can't really take that away from him, right? We can only see what we've seen, and they're not splitting that duo up anytime.
And the fact, like, think about if we were talking about this at the beginning of the year, like, listen to some of the names that we're deciding if he's better than now. Like, that's a testament to how good he is,
Yeah, he belongs in this conversation for sure. I don't know where he is, but he is. It's sure like he is dab in the middle of it, and I wouldn't be surprised if people have him like as the like we're talking about like the 4th highest point guard. Like if that's like predictions going into next year, I really wouldn't be surprised.
Confidently over Trae Young.
Yes. Well, I'm not a Trae fan though, so I'm a not.
No,
that's
I know.
not
SGA, or
SGA.
I think that's where it stops because
I think I'd pick SGA.
I would put Murray 5. I think I would go. You have Curry, Luka, SGA, and Dame as the top 4. I'd probably put Dame over SGA, and then I'd probably put Murray at 5. I'd probably put the tier 1 Curry.
There's
Luka.
also Fox.
I think is 6. I think what Murray is Fox with a little more in his bag and playoff success. And it's not discrediting Fox because this is the first time the Kings have been there.
So that's a good
forever.
Here's a good what if. What if Fox and Murray switch places? What would that look like? Because Fox with Jokic could be crazy.
Yeah. The Nuggets probably would have won the ship. Wasn't Fox like the best fourth quarter player this year? I'm not saying Murray's not a big part. I think Fox is just slightly worse than Murray. I think Fox and Murray are close, but I put Murray ahead of Fox.
You're right to bring up the Jokic equation though, Donnie, because that's something we really have to consider. Because that man, as much as Jamal Murray has been amazing all playoffs, their orbit, their team orbits around Nikola Jokic, and that dude showed up every single game. And I feel like since this podcast inception, we started in the bubble finals. I think we have given plenty of love to Nikola Jokic, and this is the only time on the podcast I think I've really been mad about this, but I really can't believe that the rhetoric turned into wait, people are just finding out about Jokic now because how are those people, how do they exist? How did people exist that were like, wait, he's this good? That you won 2 MVP. If you win an MVP in a sport, like that's the most casual.
It's casual common fans that like I said, the Nuggets did not have a lot of televised games. The Nuggets play at 9 p.m. People are just reading box scores and they're doing kind of like the argument Russell Westbrook won it when James Harden just putting up the numbers, box score, and people are getting sick and tired of it and they're like, oh, I want to see playoff success. Well, you saw playoff success with Jokic now. So what's your argument before? Because I say this every time, and this is someone who's had league pass for a handful of years. Stats only do about 20% of the story for certain NBA players. You have to watch these guys play games. And I'm not talking about a 20-second clip on SportsCenter of a couple dunks or an open three-pointer they made. You got to watch start to finish because there's a lot of off-ball stuff that Jokic does. There's just so much stuff. He has some of the best knowledge of anyone in the league of what's going on the basketball court. And people finally start to realize that in the playoffs. And I think that's the thing, Jake. It's such a casual common fan where they're like, oh, I didn't realize he was this good because you didn't watch him. Yeah, that's the only reason because you didn't watch him. And even the guy who didn't put him on his stupid MVP vote, Mark Jackson, finally made fun of himself when he goes, oh, I voted for him at least this time. It's like, yeah, you dumbass. Yeah, you dumbass, because now we're forced to watch him every game. So, and that's a guy who's heavily involved in basketball. These people aren't watching 82 Nuggets games a year, but I'll tell you who are Nuggets fans, and they realize how good this guy is. The Nuggets as a team realize how good this is, and now the NBA world is kind of like, oh, so maybe he did deserve the 2 MVPs. Maybe it wasn't so outrageous if he got 3 straight and he was in that group. Maybe it wasn't, because I'll tell you what, you watch Nikola Jokic play, it's very hard to argue there's someone right now in the world who's better at basketball than he is as a complete game.
I don't think there is.
There's one guy that can argue it, but we don't have to get into that right now. Say that. I have 2 things. I have 2 things. Hold on. One thing about the national TV thing about Mark Jackson is Van Gundy. I listened to a podcast that he was on, and I didn't realize that they did not do a Denver game. That was the first time he had done a Denver game. ESPN didn't even schedule that Denver on TV. It makes no sense. On the broadcast for the main. So that's not going to happen ever again, obviously. But just the fact, I hear everything. You're 100% right, and I hear everything you're saying. But for me, if I was a casual fan of every sport, the first thing I would look to see who is fucking good at the sport is who the MVP was. How do you get it?
And he doesn't get the respect.
I don't watch tennis. I'm a casual tennis watcher. I'm a casual golf watcher. I'm a casual UFC watcher. Yeah. You know who I think the good people are? It's fucking Izzy Adesanya or Novak Djokovic, because they win all the time.
The guys who win the majors,
the two MVPs. I just don't get how a casual fan brain is like, well, he must still be trash though. Like, I can't believe he's this good. Like, what are we doing? What are we talking about?
There's no excuse for this year either, because he didn't win it this year, but it was more of a controversy because he didn't win it. So his name was still being brought up every day throughout the MVP race.
Before Embiid started getting momentum, it was like, can we really give it to this guy 3 times?
I know. They were literally like, oh, there's no reason this guy gets it. And the big thing, too, they're like, oh, he doesn't play defense. He played pretty damn good defense in the playoffs. It's just like, and you watch it too. And this is the thing. And I know sometimes this kind of hurts the argument of if people only catch 1 to 2 games of a guy, a year, if someone's only watching 1 or 2 Jokic games a year, he makes it look so easy. It's effortless. And I say it all the time, effortless triple doubles. It's an effortless triple double. It feels like you look up at the stats. I don't remember. I don't remember what series it was. It wasn't in the NBA Finals. It might have been against the Lakers, or it might have been the series before against the Suns, where we're like, Jokic has 14, 8, and 5 in the first quarter.
Bro,
he has someone's game stats in the first quarter, and people are just,
It's Mike Breen with Jokic with 5 assists already in the first quarter. You're like, wait, what? It's been 4 minutes. How does he have 5 assists? That was like every playoff game. You're like, oh, Jokic with 7 rebounds already in the start of the second. It's like, what? 7 rebounds? How's he? What? Like, that's it's insane.
And I think that almost kind of hurts him, where people are like, oh, how good is this guy? Because it's effortless. It's not in your face. It's not, just everyone's like, wow, look at this guy. He's going crazy. It's like, no, he's just coming down the court. Gets his stat, come back down the court. It's just
people,
like,
what people don't give him enough credit for is how much of a physical freak he is, because he's stronger than anybody in the league, except maybe like, I want to see him and Giannis like do a tug of war and see what happens. Because his body, like his shape, everybody makes fun of him because he's fat, whatever. They think that he's not strong. That man, like, when you see him put his shoulder into somebody, that shit probably feels like your shoulder or your chest is caving in. Like, he is a big man and he is strong. And like, I don't think people that doesn't come across, like you're saying, as much on TV as like a big dunk or like running down the court, because he's lumbering. He's not fast, but he is bullying people. Like, he's Shaq bullying people, not that level, but he's doing that to guys on, like, some guys on a nightly basis. And it's not, I feel like that's not, like, he's rebounding, one of the best rebounder, like probably the best rebounder in basketball at this point. Like, I don't think
if he wanted to get 20 rebounds a night, he would. Yes. If he really wanted 20 rebounds a night, he would. And not only just strength, Jake, his footwork. He has some of the best footwork.
Oh my God, dude, he had some drop step. He had some drop step shot last night where he got on the block, and I just watched him. Like, I imagine he's done this same move like 500,000 times in his life, and he did like 3 steps and then just puts this little like soft hook and it bounces around like 3 times and goes in. And I'm like, I knew that was automatic. And the fact that he just like, it looked like a robot. Like, it looked like a robot doing the steps in that thing. And you're exactly right. Like, he's just so precise, so efficient. And those are things that just aren't, I guess, appreciated by a general public as much. Agreed. But man, it is way more impressive to me than anything else. Yeah.
And I also think too, these finals or just these playoffs overall, we kind of learned, and I know we kind of knew that, but the casual fan learned too. Oh, even though Jokic's scoring is down, if he wanted to score 40 a night, he could. He just doesn't. Sometimes he's just like, I'm not going to take 20 shots. Yeah. I'm just going to take. There's some games, and I know you guys know this because we watch the Nuggets. There's some games where Jokic has 4 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists midway through the second quarter. It's like, oh, it must be a cold shooting night. No, he's 2 for 2. He's just taking 2 shots.
I was literally just going to say that. I think last night, halfway through, like, it was almost halftime.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, Jokic only has 8 points, but he was 4 for 4.
Yeah. It's like, what? What do you mean? Like, that doesn't happen with other players. Yeah. When they have 8 points, they're 4 for 11. Jokic he just takes the shots. He's like, if they give it to me, I'll take it. And that's what's so impressive about him. And I think that's partly, too, why the casual fan gets bored. They're like, oh, he's only got 3 shots up this game, the game I'm watching. This guy's not dominant. It's like, no, that's what makes him so dominant. Jokic, I honestly want to say he's made maybe 5 bad basketball plays the entire playoffs.
I've never seen him. I've never seen
it. He doesn't make a bad play. He just doesn't do it. He just doesn't do it.
It's truly king of the chessboard shit. I said it last week. The only other person I've ever seen be able to like orchestrate like that is like prime LeBron, who can just sit at the top of the key and just be like, you there, easy wide open shot every single time. And it's what he does. That's why he might be the best rebounder and best passer in the league. And I
think he's the best passer in the league.
I think it's no question he's the best passer. And then like I think that's what you get. Like when you have that combination, it's a freak. It's an absolute freak.
And you know who loves the way he orchestrates is all his damn teammates that he got an NBA championship.
Yo, Bruce Brown.
Paid and an NBA championship. Yeah, let's start with Bruce Brown.
On a 1-year, $5 million deal this year. He's going to be making $20 million, and I hope the Cavs pay him $20 million.
I would love him in Boston, bro.
Anybody would. Like, Bruce Brown, KCP and Bruce Brown and Jeff Green.
What a playoffs for those guys.
I mean, awesome.
And Aaron Gordon was considered kind of a bust in Orlando. He comes to Denver. He's like, I just got to be like kind of the fourth man. And when Aaron Gordon wants to play well, he plays well. They just set up each other for success. It's incredible. The defense was focused first for Aaron Gordon, for a guy like KCP. MPJ, who did not shoot well, still had an impact because that's just how the Nuggets made it work. And that's what happens when you have a superstar who's leading your team like Jokic, who his main thing, he just makes his teammates better. He's one of those guys.
It's just so cool, man. Like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 2-time NBA champ now. Bruce Brown, we just talked about it. Like I was thinking about this all playoffs for some reason. It's probably just because he played the Celtics last year, but was a Brooklyn Net last year on one of the best teams on paper ever assembled. Got swept by the Boston Celtics. A year later, he got swept by the Boston Celtics in the first round. A year later, he's, hoisting Larry O'Brien. He's an NBA champion with the Denver Nuggets, obviously. Jeff Green, how much can you say about this guy? He's played for almost half the teams in the NBA, 15 seasons. He finally gets one. I love seeing that.
Still had a good role. For the Nuggets this year.
He was huge. Not only throughout the playoffs, in certain games and in certain games in this 5-game NBA Finals. We don't talk about him much anymore, and he barely played. But someone who I think deserves credit is DeAndre Jordan. Aaron Gordon and
came Jokic in last night, huge minutes.
Yeah, they were in foul trouble very early, and he came in and started blocking shots. I'm like, okay, DeAndre Jordan still has some. Like,
there was
cool to see him get a ring. Hey, Jake, just one more thing here.
Yeah, go ahead.
We might have to start this award on Happy Hour Hoops. The biggest winner of the year, Christian Brown, man. I think we should start. I think we should start doing a Happy Hour Hoops biggest winner of the year at the end of every NBA season. And it's just undoubtedly Christian Brown. Goes and wins a championship at Kansas last year. And then, wins another one this year with the Denver Nuggets. No biggie.
Played the same role on both teams. Granted, he started for Kansas. He came off the bench for the Nuggets, but the same role. He will drive a little bit. He'll shoot if he needs to. He's going to play fantastic defense. He's going to be a guy he's not going to shy away from anyone who has to defend. He will attack the hoop if you allow him to. It's very good in transition, elite in transition, and a team player. And it's funny, too, because I remember watching that Kansas team or that Kansas run, and obviously Ochai Agbaji was probably one of, their best player, one of the big reasons they won that. A couple other good players, too. But every game, you're just like, Christian Brown just making an impact every game. Regular season for the title run, it just felt like every game. And maybe on a smaller sample size here, especially in some of the regular season games, but was always in the rotation for the Denver Nuggets this year. He was not one of those guys who was like sitting the bench at the start and came on. He was always playing a role, and he was always making an impact. And when the rotations shorten in the playoffs, usually the young guys are the ones who get knocked out, right? Their minutes. Yeah. Christian Braun still had a role, and even regardless if he played 5 minutes or 10 minutes or he played up to 30 minutes in a game, he was always making an impact. And you're right, Tony. I mean, sometimes winners just know how to win. And apparently Christian Braun has been pretty good at winning the past couple seasons.
Yeah. So the first
Hopefully
ever.
People pronounce it right now, right? Hopefully they pronounce it Brown even instead of Braun. Because I'm tired of that.
The first ever Happy Hour Hoops Winner of the Year award, Christian Braun. Congrats.
I just wanted to shout out Christian Braun. I mean, what a 2 years for in your 20s. Like,
good
Jesus
for you.
Christ, dude. My God. How much fun that. I want to say.
How about the basketball minds, though? Bill Self to Michael Malone. That's got to be nice, too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's going to be nice.
Dude's he's going to have a nice long career in the NBA. He was awesome all series, too. Like, he's going to have a long career in the league. Earlier on the Simmons podcast, Doc Rivers is on there. He said that when he met with DeAndre Jordan to recruit him, this is a story that he told. He said that he showed him, like, you could be all-star, all defense, all NBA, all these things. And the last thing was NBA champion. Like, it was this big list of accomplishments. Apparently DeAndre texted him a couple weeks ago. It was like only one more thing to go. And then now he's an NBA champion. Just thought that was like a cool thing to be he still had that checklist, like, that all the things that he was told and set out to do. Team USA, I think gold medal was like one of the things too, like those types of things. And then NBA champion, and now, like you said, DeAndre Jordan. NBA champion.
People forget how damn good DeAndre Jordan was, bro.
That Clippers team probably should have won a freaking title or been in the finals.
So much fun.
I mean, really, they should have been in the finals. Like,
defensively, on the glass, one of the best alley-oop catches the game's ever seen. He almost killed Brandon Knight with an alley-oop dunk.
I'll never forget the excitement.
Man. He had a Shaq-like impact when he was on the Clippers. For
the rush of watching that dunk on Sports Center the next morning, because I was not watching that live. I think we were in high school then or whatever, and I remember turning on Sports Center in the morning and it was just the first thing on the highlight. Be like, what the fuck? How did that just happen? Like, could never replicate. There's only a couple guys in NBA history that give you that feeling. And DeAndre,
so cool, man.
Certainly one of them.
Shout out the vets, shout out the role players, Reggie Jackson, Ish Smith getting rings as well. Really cool. The
Thomas Bryant,
crazy.
He got a ring. He got a ring.
I forgot about it.
Crazy, man. Hilarious. Last thing I wanted to say here on the Nuggets, and then we can break down what's next for Miami, and then we're gonna end with some bold NBA summer predictions here for you guys. But last thing on the Nuggets, Michael Malone, you can call it ballsy, you can call it whatever you want. I thought it was cool in the moment, but it's going to be something he's going to have to think about, because nowadays when you say something, it's on the internet, it lives forever. But Michael Malone says they will win more rings. I gotta pull up the exact quote. I know I tweeted it last night, but basically the reporters are asking Michael Malone, he's holding the trophy. They're saying, what's going through your mind right now? He was thanking Denver. He's thanking all the fans. And he's just saying something along the lines of, we're not done. We're going to win some more. And I thought that was interesting. Oh, yeah. He said, we are not satisfied with one. We want more. We want more.
Hey, I mean.
That was baller.
It's hard to say no, especially in that moment. They've kept the same kind of core together. We'll see what happens going forward. It's always so tough to speculate these things. But hey, I mean, you're getting right into the prime of Jamal Murray. It looks like, even though Jokic is a little older than some of the other, superstars right now, or young superstars, Jokic is going to be one of the best players in the league for a while. And the way he plays his game too, it looks like you're going to have longevity with Jokic as well. We'll see. I mean, the Nuggets, people kind of forget too, because they didn't really have the deep playoff runs. They've been a very good team for like 3-4 years now, especially dealing with injuries. This was kind of their first year. They were all healthy. And look what happened. I will say, I think the NBA's talent is as talented as it has ever been these past couple seasons. We say it all the time. There's just so many good teams with promise, so many young teams with potential, a lot of established stars already, not to mention we got a couple decent, prospects coming into the league in the next couple years. So we'll see. It's going to be very tough. I think it's going to be a lot harder to repeat or win multiple championships in a 5-10 year span than it has been previously. But hey, they're going to be one of the top 4 probably favorites to win the championship at the start of next year. So it's not crazy. And that's also too, you gotta say that, right? I know people are gonna like clip that, but you gotta say that because you're not gonna be like, oh, we got lucky breaks a good team. No, like they're the best team in the world right now, so own it, celebrate it, and let people know.
He sees Nikola Jokic every day when he walks to work. He's like, we're winning 20 titles, bro. What do you mean? We're never stopping. I loved it. I thought it was fucking. I mean, it's such a baller move. I lost my train of thought. I don't know what my take was going to be. It was just awesome. There was something I was thinking about it, but I can't remember. Oh, you know what? You know why he does this? And I don't know I don't think he thinks ahead of this, but maybe someone told him to yell this or something. But if they do have a dynasty, that's going to look baller on the Nuggets documentary when the end of the first episode, it's just 100%. Mike Malone, I want more. And then they win like 5 more titles or something, you know? Like
I feel like LeBron did that, right? In Miami. Not 1, not 2.
Yeah, but the thing is, they hadn't won any titles yet. They hadn't even stepped on the floor.
They haven't even played a game together.
A little different.
Just slightly different. I had to say.
When he got to 7, you were like, bro,
it's like, dude, you got to play a game with these guys first.
5. Yeah. He paused after 5 when he did that, and I was like, "This." As a staunch LeBron defender, and like was trying.
You were in a button-down shirt right now, LeBron.
What are you doing, man? That's what Jokic. I wish Jokic would have said that. I'm like, not 1.
Oh my god,
not 2. Job's awesome. Not done. We need 3.
Jokic would
we
never
need 4.
Say that.
No,
so
Jokic, that's too many. That's too many. I want to go home with my horses. That's too many. That's too many championships. I just want a couple.
Next time they win, that parade better be Wednesday at least.
Oh no, that better be that night. Better be that night.
They're just gonna Skype Nikola. He's just gonna be on the big screen.
Dude, how funny would that be if it's the Nuggets championship parade and they're all there? Jokic is home, basically calling. What would you do if you're the owner of the Nuggets and Jokic's like, I want to go home, I'm gonna miss the parade? What are you gonna say? No?
If they win multiple championships,
you can't do that.
Well, he might bail on a parade. He might just be like, "Fuck it, I'm not going to this. Like, this is my 3rd title. I don't."
Yeah,
if
there's multiple, I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
I don't know if you guys saw on the TV desk, like after a lot of celebration, him like requesting the owners playing on the panel, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could do that."
He started fist pumping. He's like, "Yes."
I put him on the spot. I put him on the spot. He's gonna give me the plan. So Denver fans, Jokic should make it to the parade. If he doesn't, it's because your guys' owner wouldn't give up the plan. But I'm sure
the private jet's just gonna be waiting where the parade ends, and Jokic is just gonna walk right up on it. He's like, I'll see you guys.
If you go ahead, Jake.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm just saying, I don't know what our podcast was like last year when the Warriors won, but this is an infinitely much more fun post-finals podcast.
I was
that I had. I know you weren't having fun. I definitely wasn't having fun. Steve was probably the only one.
I had my Curry jersey on, I think.
Yeah, I think you did. This is. I'm just looking back. I was like, damn, what happened last year? Oh, the fucking Warriors won. That's why I'm not. Like, this was like, there's nothing. I'm not angry about anything that like Denver winning. Not my best case scenario, basically my main point, but it's a damn great scenario for the NBA and just everybody in general. Like, it's a great story. For anybody winning their first championship, like, and that's so much fun, right? Man. It's so much fun.
They won their first championship at home. When you guys saw it, and that was one of the coolest things to me on the TV when they're doing the post-game celebration. That stadium was still packed. Nobody left. That was just so cool to see everyone outside celebrating. I mean, that's it. Like with the reason from last year with the Warriors, not just that they beat the Dundee Celtics and he was, depressed, miserable, and I get it, I completely understand. And you hate the Warriors, but we saw it with the Warriors before. We knew how these players would react. We knew they've won this before. We knew what was going to happen. The whole song and dance. It's like. These are all these guys' first championship. This is the city's first NBA championship. It was just, that is what I love. And it reminds me kind of when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup and Alex Ovechkin got his first international superstar who's going to be one of the greatest to ever do it. And I wasn't a Capitals fan, but I was genuinely emotional, and I'm like, I'm so happy for them. I'm so happy for this team, this city, cool for Ovi. That's exactly how I felt with the Nuggets. I was just so happy. I'm not a Nuggets fan. I don't care about the Nuggets after this, but I was just so happy for them and for Jokic and for Murray and for the fans and for the players. And I think that's why, especially in sports too, like it was just different from the Warriors, because this is like one where it's like,
that's what I mean. It just feels like a different NBA championship in general, like from the last like 10 years. Like we've had like,
well, yeah, because it's been LeBron
years.
Warriors.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's just like so fresh, like and just the fact that it's like, yeah, it just
Toronto
it felt like it meant
cool,
a lot more.
But that Kawhi had also Kawhi was the Spurs,
and he was there for a year or whatever.
Exactly. This was different. They built this team. This is the Denver Nuggets built this team, and it worked. And that just makes it so much better. Plus, they won at home. Nothing's better than winning at home.
True. Yeah, it was just a blast. Like I just feel like I had so much more fun, like watching, just experiencing like that, and just seeing it, like even the follow up afterwards and everything. Like it's been such a joy today to see all the stuff I missed on yesterday.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a great long summer for Nuggets fans, Nuggets players. It's an awesome time. And I'm extremely happy for the Nuggets. I think that's really why I brought up the Malone thing. I thought it was ballsy, but also so cool that this was the franchise's first championship, your first championship, and you're just like, we want more.
He said, "Fuck it,
yeah,
we got medal."
Yeah. So Michael, don't call him Mike Malone, was fired up. I was fired.
I remember like I was fist pumping as he was saying it. I was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, Mike!" And I was like, "I don't even care about the I don't even care about this team, but yeah, let's go."
It's summer 2023 is officially summer of the Denver Nuggets, so it's going to be awesome. I'm sure throughout the summer we'll have more Nuggets stories and stuff to talk about. We're going to close the show with a little sad Heat talk. The zombie Heat, they finally died. And I will pose this question to you guys to start the Heat talk. We don't have to spend much time on it. There's really not much to say. We kind of covered a lot of it too. But do we see them run back this core? Or could this be the last glimpse we saw of the Bam, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero core? And then, Hero is going to be my next question for you guys. But
I think we'll still see all three in Miami uniforms next year. I do. I don't think we'll. We're going to see probably more switch up to the role players because some of those guys are going to have to get paid, or some of the guys, just the way the rotation works, they're going to have to change. I saw a lot of speculation of maybe they get another big man and maybe play, take a little bit less off Bam down low, maybe have Bam play a little more of a 4 and then kind of, 4-5 hybrid role. But I think this is Jimmy's last stop. I don't feel like Bam goes anywhere. I really don't. And I really think Bam kind of showed that, especially in the finals, that he kind of took that step. And Bam was probably the third best player in the finals after Jokic and Murray. I think
arguably the second. I think some games he was like, holy shit, man. Like, especially the jumps he took. I think just the jumps he took offensively in general. There are some games where
if he can hit that mid range consistently like that all year next year, he's gonna be a second team All NBA guy. Like legitimately, like he's so dominant defensively. If he can hit that jumper like that,
and then Hero, we just didn't see Hero. He got hurt. He got hurt in the first game in Milwaukee. We didn't see him, so it'd be very. I just don't see them not bringing. I just think they're going to keep the same three. They've been, and this is the thing too. And I said kind of similar when the Celtics, when they lost Dunny, it's like the same core has been getting there. They just haven't gotten over the championship hump of winning, but the players are still finding success. It's not easy to win in this league. And the Heat have been one of the most successful franchises with this core for 4 or 5 years. And I know a lot of credit goes to Spoelstra. I know a lot of credit goes to Jimmy Butler taking that, big step in the playoffs from regular season to playoffs. I know that. I get that. But I also think too, like, something has to be said if they just kind of work together and you have that chemistry playing together all the time. I don't think the Heat are in a position right now to do a full rebuild. I don't think the Heat are in a position to switch up a lot of stuff. Just keep it together and see what happens in a couple of years. Yeah, a couple parts are going to change.
Dunny,
there's no reason.
Dunny, you made fun of it earlier, but it seems like the Heat are going big game hunting this summer. That they are in on Dame talks, and Dame's talking about them. Mm-hmm. They are in on Beal. They're in on Kyrie today. And Kyrie is because Kyrie fucking texted Shams last night, was like, I'd go to the Heat. And so Shams,
of course you would, Kyrie.
You can't anything Shams says about Kyrie is just a text from Kyrie.
I know.
You have to take that. And that's and I think that's why you made fun of it, because you were making fun of Shams. I thought, but maybe
yes,
not.
Partially it's to take shots at Shams, because I'll do that any chance I get.
When your name is Shams and you're a reporter, it's a tough beat to get into. I'm not trying to make fun of his name, but you're building for it. But anyways.
No, my gripe with that, it's more the Heat and just how the national media has had this weird obsession with them the last 3 years, where just everyone who's a free agent or wants out of their current situation is just automatically a candidate for the Heat. It's like, where do you think they're getting this money, dude? Like, every time I see a free agent, it's always, the Miami Heat's interested.
Well, they could trade Tyler.
Everyone else.
They could trade Tyler Hero for Damian Lillard and have a package that could work this summer.
And no, it's not even the specific like Kyrie.
It is.
Stuff.
Like, they would need a bigger package than
it's that. Hero and Duncan's deal basically match up, because Duncan's is huge, and what they can bring in. They have an exception, I think, too, from somewhere. I saw it earlier. There was like a thing. Dame to Miami, I think, is very, very real. But I'm with you. It's ridiculous that like Pat Riley, the superstar whisperer, is going to get every
and that's where I think it's coming from.
Doesn't do it. Yeah,
that's where I think it's coming.
But
from.
Dame literally said it on his podcast. I would go to Miami unless they win a championship.
Yeah,
and he's half joking, but I don't. Here's the thing with the Portland. If Portland's in a crossroads. And this is just a quick aside. Portland's in a crossroads because they either have to trade number 3 for a star to win now with Dame. And then you're basically trading Scoot Henderson, because Charlotte has essentially said they're picking Brandon Miller. We know Wembanyama is going to 1. That's at least the rumors from draft people right now. Obviously that can change on draft night, whatever. But right now, Scoot is basically so you're either going to trade Scoot or you're going to trade Dame. Like that makes sense for your franchise, at least. I don't know why you'd want both of them. So Dame makes the most sense in that thing. In Miami, like, I don't know where the other Dame places. Or where are the other superstar places, I guess. Because Miami and Philly and New York, I think, are the big superstar hunters this offseason, right? Like, those are, if we're trying to break it down to just a couple teams who we know want to trade for a star and are going to be looking to, I feel like those are the 3 biggest, and the Lakers, obviously, and Dallas, I guess. Those are the 5.
Those don't have much to trade.
But they can't do anything. That's the problem. But like the teams that if they could jump on a superstar deal of any sort, if it's Beal, if it's Kyrie, if it's Dame, whatever, if they can make it work, they'll try to make it work.
Right.
So I feel like that's where it comes from as much as anything now. And I think to your point, Steve, yes, they could probably get back next year. And I don't even think Jimmy's getting older, but I don't think that matters. I think Jimmy's going to be able to be effective with the way his game is for a long time. But maybe now they feel pressure because they're like, fuck, dude. Like, and Giannis in another year of Giannis, another year of the Celtics together. Another, like, the East is only getting better. So that I don't know if that's the right decision. I just wonder if that's the increased, like, let's just get another star and try to win. We might be the best team in the league next year if we get Dame.
I get that, but sometimes, like, you also got to understand, like, expectations. They were the underdogs in every series. They were the underdogs in every series.
Yeah.
Even in their previous playoff runs, they were not these high favorites. Even when they were the 1 seed, it was like the Celtics series. It was not like, that's the thing. It's like,
would they be with Damian Lillard though?
I don't think so, and I don't think the Miami Heat with Damian Lillard would be favored in a playoff series over a healthy Milwaukee or a healthy Boston. I genuinely don't. So my thing is, like, I
agree with that.
Are you really going to try to, basically sacrifice your future or, your role players, which has been basically a huge part of the Miami Heat and the Heat culture. And the reason they get there because of guys step up for 1 or 2 years to try to get a star. I don't think there's that much.
Here's the thing, though. You say that
they've been exceeding expectations.
It is the Heat culture, but when the Heat last won their NBA title was when they got 3 superstars on their team.
Well, yeah.
So the Heat so I could see Pat just being like, fuck it, let's get 3 superstars on the team. That's my point.
I don't consider I'm not going to say Bam and Jimmy aren't superstars, but they're not on the level.
That's a big three, though. No, it's not. No, it's not that. It's not that. It's not equal. I'm just saying, like, just thinking.
So I think you have to construct the team differently. That's all I'm saying. I don't think you can win with a big three in Miami. I really don't. If you're sacrificing other parts of the team, I don't.
For sure. I don't think they can win with Tyler Hero as their third best player. So I think they need to do something about that. That's
fair.
But I agree with you. I think they do. It would raid their roster, and it's a lot of questions with an old Dame and an old Jimmy, and Bam basically has to be your lead guy. I don't know if that's the best. I don't think it's the best team in the East, but I just think that's the questions they're talking about today, right now. Like, what do we do now?
Fair.
Go ahead, Dunny. Sorry.
No, it goes back to the notion that Steve brought up to start this conversation about, he compared it to the Celtics situation. And this might sound hypocritical because that is what I want the Celtics to do. You've been getting there every year. You're better than 96% of the rest of the NBA. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The only difference with Miami, I feel like, how long can you rely on these undrafted guys to be such a huge part of your team? And, if they keep proving everyone wrong and keep providing, then, hey, I'm wrong about this assessment. Right. But it's different when you consider the Celtics roster one of the best in the NBA because they have guys like Brogdon. They have guys like Grant Williams. They have guys like Al Horford, who's been doing it forever, compared to these flash-in-the-pan guys like Gabe Vincent, who is an undersized guard who shot out of his mind. Caleb Martin, who was a nobody, got to Miami and started shooting out of his mind in the playoffs. Max Strus, same deal. Duncan Robinson played D3. It's like, we've never seen this before, so do these guys fizzle out? Who knows? Or do they continue to go on? I think it's just a much more calculated risk if you try to run it back, if that's your core. And that'd be my only point against it, but it does sound hypocritical because that's what I want the Celtics to do. I want the Celtics to run it back. I just don't know if it's on the same level and if it's as,
I think
smart.
I know on paper the rosters may look a little different, but I think it's the same situation, Donnie. Celtics and Heat. You just came up a little short for the past 4 years, so it's hard to say.
No, that's what I'm saying. I agree. It is the same situation.
That's why I think it's hard to say don't run it back, change everything, because you're so close. You've been so close. And it's not just 1 year of being close. It's 4 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've been saying this for 4 years.
That's why these guys get paid the big bucks, these guys in the big chairs up there, because they got to make these final decisions. And we're sitting here talking. Either path could work. Like, that's the thing is both these teams could run it back. And I wouldn't be surprised if he adds some role players to their roster and figure out the thing is, like, to your point earlier, Steve, if you got 7 or 8 guys once you're in the playoffs that can go, that's just all you need is they can go. Right. And that's like the Heat. That's the thing about the undrafted guys. There's a lot of misses in there too, but they found just at least a couple of those guys that they could count on in those games. Then you shorten that bench and you're set. Like and those guys showed out and knew their roles and everything else. And the buy-in, it's special, but it's a chemistry mix that's so delicate every year in basketball anyways. Like my Twitter banner is still the secret about basketball. It's not about basketball. It's an Isaiah Thomas quote. And it's true because it's so all the personalities meshing and the shots and it all comes into play. And that's what Miami's so good at is figuring how to make that thing work for everybody. So that's what I think, Dunny. I think they can make it work. But also, like, there's just a talent thing especially in the East too. The East is just crazy, right? And like the East top end too, especially next year, is only going to get better.
And that's the thing. Like, it probably will work again for Miami, knowing the track record and the resume we've already seen. It probably would. I'm wondering if the people upstairs, the people even above them, are like, okay, well, how long are we going to rely on guys like Max Strus and Duncan Robinson if we haven't got over that hump yet? Where I think with other teams, it's a little easier to convince yourself when you have the star power that, like, if you put Tatum and Brown up against Bam and Jimmy, I think Tatum and Brown outweigh that. And then it's like, and then what's underneath? I guess they're so similar situations. That's why I keep saying it probably sounds hypocritical. It's just like, I don't know. They're in a very sticky situation in my eyes. The last thing I want to ask is, do we know what happened to Hero last night? Did they say before the game that, his hands started acting up again? Because from what I saw, hours before the game, he was expected to play. And then all of a sudden, don't give him a shot.
Anything said about how many minutes or whatnot, just he was expected to play. And then I guess, I don't know if there's anything that went wrong in the shoot around. I didn't see anything. Maybe they saw something during the shoot around, but all I know is the shoot around. And then it was just like after that, he wasn't playing. So
yeah.
I don't know. It could have been something they saw. It also, too, could have been like, if this guy has a chance of re-injuring it or making it worse, they're like, we're just not going to throw him out there for one.
Yeah. There's parts of the third quarter, and the broadcast was mentioning it nonstop. It's like they're literally calling out of bounds plays after timeouts for Max Strus, and Bam and Jimmy just went ghost in the third quarter. Yeah. And it's like, okay, you're at this point in an elimination game on the road. Maybe give Tyler Hero a shot here.
Yeah,
that's what we were talking about the other day. It's like, when's the right time to play him?
And maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe he came out and was like, I'm not, I can't play my game tonight.
But it was strange to watch, and like them kept showing him on the TV
and
screen.
If that is
finally suited up, it's like,
if that is it, I really respect the self-awareness to be like, listen, I don't have it. I'm not going to go hurt my team out there by trying to like have a moment and hurt myself either. Yeah. Like I'm not like I'd rather sit this out. That takes a lot of like, that's a hard decision to make, man, as a competitor to be in that situation and sit. So like if that's what happens,
that's like a semi-younger player too, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's some good self-awareness there.
Yeah.
I said I was gonna say one thing about Jimmy when we brought him up earlier. I am gonna say one thing about Jimmy. Well, I'll say this first. So much credit to him. He's a fucking animal. He's a dog. I wanted the Nuggets to win as a fan watching, because I like the Nuggets team better, but I was going to be very happy for Jimmy Butler. Yeah. Well, that's the obvious. But I would have been very happy for Jimmy Butler if he won a ring, because I think he's one of the most deserving in the NBA. I think he's one of the best competitors in the NBA. He's an unreal talent, great story, all of that. The only thing I'll say, and it's not that I want people to be on Jimmy for it, I just can't stand how lopsided NBA narratives can be sometimes, because at this point last year, Tatum was getting clowned off the internet for how bad he played in the NBA Finals. Jimmy Butler's numbers were worse.
Oh, yeah, no.
Just objectively worse.
True.
He played worse than Tatum did, and he won less games in the NBA Finals.
True.
And it's just – and then all summer we're still going to hear, oh, Jimmy's probably better than – it's just like the flip-flop of where we rank stars bothers the hell out of me. And Jimmy Butler played worse against the Denver Nuggets than Jason Tatum did against the Golden State Warriors, but we won't hear that. And
I think what people are going to say is, right, oh, Jimmy was hurt. You could clearly tell after his ankle.
So was Tatum.
Tatum was hurt in Game 7.
He was.
Tatum was hurt
Tatum was hurt last year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He was hurt in Game 7 this year. He was hurt in last year in the finals, and you're still going to give him shit. So it's just people picking and choosing their arguments. But what I will say, Dunny, on Jimmy Butler's behalf, I think the drop-off was enough to be like, this is an injury that's bothering him. He's never going to admit it. But and I'm not gonna be like, oh, he had a really shitty finals, because he didn't play well. His numbers weren't great. But like you said earlier, he didn't have that quickness. He didn't have that first step, that explosiveness that he has. And you could tell. But I think you're right, Dunny, to the point where it's just unfair where certain players have that narrative and other players don't. Jimmy Butler's narrative is he steps up in the playoffs, he's clutch. Jason Tatum's, they're like, oh, he shies away from the moment. And I know Tatum and Butler have both had moments of where they've stepped up and both had moments where they haven't been the best. But it's what drives me nuts about it, Dunny. It's like people just forget about what Tatum did in 6 and 7 against Philly. They just throw it out the door in these playoffs. And I know as a Celtics fan, it drives you nuts because people aren't really giving Jimmy the shit that they gave Tatum last year and the shit that they gave Tatum.
And it's like, I don't want to give Jimmy the shit. Finals. I don't think he played that poorly. It's just like,
that's the thing.
Keep the same tone.
Pick and choose their spots, and it's frustrating because it's like, all right, if you're going to use the crutch like, oh, this guy was hurt, he wasn't playing 100%, then you just can't ignore it with other players. You got to be consistent. And I will say that, like, I think Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum are great players. I think Jimmy Butler's got a little more dog in him than most players, especially where his jump from regular season to playoffs, because Tatum has been an all-NBA guy for 2 years. Jimmy Butler in the regular season, he's a good player. He's a great player, but he's not all NBA level. He plays like all NBA in the playoffs. And I think that jump or that gap is why people really kind of jump on the narrative, oh, Jimmy Butler is a dog. And certain players aren't.
And the difference between superstars and all-time greats is all-time greats can do it every single night. They're putting up 27, 8, and 10 in the playoffs, like Jokic did. Like, that's the thing. And that's like Tatum and Butler are amazing players. They're not all-time top 20, top-tier superstars in the league. And they're superstars in the league or in NBA history. And superstars, just top-tier guys in the league, are still going to have nights where they have 13 points on 5 of 17. Like, that's to be a top 5 guy in the NBA. It's not just getting to that point. It's staying there and doing it night in and night out. And I think that's what separates Jimmy. And that's the thing that people forget to mention about Jimmy when he gets to these great heights, is that he has such lower lows than a Tatum, while he, whatever people want to talk about, had different struggles and everything. Tatum has been consistently all NBA level for 3 years now. Like, it's not even it's a ridiculous conversation to have, in my opinion. So I'm with you, Dunny. I'll be on the lookout for you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate it, fellas. That was really my only just take. I was itching to get off my chest. And like I said, it's not even, I don't want to be negative towards Jimmy. It's just crazy that's the,
we can just say he's really good, but he's not as good as like these other guys. Like, why can't we do that? Like, why do when Jimmy goes off, we say Jimmy is like the best player ever? Like, it doesn't need to be. Is it because he's Michael Jordan's illegitimate son still?
Yeah.
Is that why we give him all this credit? Someone said, I saw a tweet earlier that was like, now I see why he disowned him or something. It was so terrible.
Yeah, it's. Those are crazy, man. It would have been, imagine what we would have had to hear if the Heat ended up winning, bro. But let's finish here quick. We'll give our NBA big summer predictions. And we'll send you guys off with that. We'll give you guys a little something to think about throughout the summer. Everyone loves free agency, obviously. July is always crazy for that. And then leading up to the season, it's usually pretty good as well.
This is gonna be a crazy free agency because we've been talking about Dame. Beal is gonna be probably on the move. We got Kyrie definitely on the move. Draymond, potentially Porzingis. There's gonna be a lot of very good players moving around. So one prediction. You want to start, Dunny? I could start. My prediction, I kind of already gave it away. I think Dame. Right. I think Dame's getting traded. I think it's to Miami. I think Hero. I think whatever the deal is, whatever picks, whatever they have to do, I think Miami pushes the chips in and goes for Dame. And for Portland, it's not that they even really want to get rid of Dame. It's just, do you trade Scoot or do you trade Dame? And you can't trade Scoot Henderson. Like, I'm sorry. You just can't do it. Especially right now. You can't trade that pick. Even if it's Brandon Miller, you can't trade that pick. I don't think so. They should rebuild. So I think Dame, I think in Miami, I still think they're behind Milwaukee and Boston, but it makes it a lot more fun. Dame just fits. I could just see it. Yep. Heat culture Dame.
I could totally see that. Not much of a uniform change either, so it'd be easy on the eyes.
Of course.
Steve, what do you got? What's your?
I know you guys want me to say Dallas is going to form a super team, but I'm not going there. I think that a player that was on the radar a few years ago that people loved, that kind of fell off due to injury concern, due to physical health, due to doesn't want to play in New Orleans. Zion's getting traded to the New York Knicks. Zion will be in the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks want to make a splash. I think this is the way to do it. I think Zion, the Knicks wanted that pick. They wanted to take Zion at 1. They didn't get. They fell to RJ Barrett. I think the Knicks are going to offer the Pelicans a pretty big package to get Zion, who magically is going to want to play basketball again. Zion's going to be playing in the Garden.
Zion in New York City, after what we've learned about him, is going to be terrifying. Miami would be worse.
I was wondering if we were going to bring it up.
Yeah, we can say that's a song.
We can
let's
leave
see
it
where
at that.
Yeah,
Zion's going through
enough.
Tough times. He could use a change of scenery. That's for sure.
I will say,
I like that.
I love the move of the next day having them donate $250,000.
Yep.
Okay. It's great.
Bro.
I mean, it's awesome too.
Awesome.
Like, as long as it whatever, give the kids the money, but it's just.
It was funny that day that news dropped, the toy gun for John Moran dropped, and there was a finals game that night, and those were both much bigger stories than the finals game.
Nobody does it better than the NBA. Nobody does it better than getting
they
stories
really
than
don't,
the NBA.
bro.
It's the best reality show going. It really is. Never ends.
And perfect way to set up my prediction here, boys, because this would turn into a reality show.
Oh boy.
I think we're going to get, I alluded to this a couple of weeks ago, so you guys might know this, but I think we're getting a new age bad boys team in Detroit, fellas. I think Draymond Green is signing with the Detroit Pistons, and then Patrick Beverley is going to follow suit. They're getting 2 defensive anchors, old savvy veterans that love to play defense to go with that young core and Monty Williams. I think we're going to see a new age bad boys team form right before our eyes. They already got Isaiah Stewart, who tried to fight LeBron and plowed over.
He's literally people. A meme. He's a meme.
Yeah,
now.
They already had their own mini Malice at the Palace. Obviously, it's nowhere even close. Don't come after me if I end up posting this. But yeah, man, I just think it makes sense. I think they can pay Draymond at this point because they have a lot of guys on younger contracts still. And I think Pat Bev might see that because, his options are going to be open. I wouldn't be surprised if they just, put a flyer out on Pat Bev and they have this little defensive intensity in Detroit again.
I love that.
I like it.
I think my honorable mention is just to watch out for the Chicago Bulls. They're going to do something crazy. That is my understanding. My local beat reporting from the ground is the Bulls are ready to do some crazy shit. I think the Bulls are going to look way different next year. I think Levine and DeRozan are getting traded. I think they're both gone, honestly. I think they don't know what they want to do. From what I'm everything I've read and listened to is they don't know what they want to do with those guys, but they don't think they can play together. So they might just ship them both out and just start anew. And the Lonzo thing hurts a lot too. Obviously, that was a big investment, and that just sucks for him in general.
Yeah, but tough.
It might be blow it up situation in Chicago, or try to go get they might go star hunting and overpay with some Patrick Williams Levine deal or something like that. I just feel like something crazy is going to happen here.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of teams in that same boat where we're going to have a lot of new faces circling in, a lot of crazy stories, rumors. Rumor season is upon us. That's the biggest thing here. Rumor season in the NBA. It's hot. It's already here. We got a bunch today. But yeah, that's going to do it for Happy Hour Hoops. That was our finals debriefing, our finals thoughts.
Nice.
And yeah, we'll be on here all throughout the summer. More rumors, more predictions.
We got drafts next week.
More news. We got the NBA drafts coming up.
We should
who
have
do you think goes one? Who you guys think goes one?
I think we should have a draft.
That guy named Wemby.
We should have a draft where we all draft 3 players or 4 players that we have to follow next year, or
I'm down for that.
Pay attention to. And I know who my my 2 people are, and I'm locked in. I'm ready to roll. I'm watching them no matter what. But
all right, hey, if that isn't a tease, if that isn't a tease for next week, guys, I don't know what it is.
Draft.
Yes, we're drafting a draft next week. Follow us on all socials at Happy Hour Hoops 1. Follow Trainwreck Sports. The show's presented by Trainwreck Sports. Steve, Jake, myself. We'll talk to you guys next week.